What's good, y'all? You Dub back here again, here in 2019. Let's get it. Bringing y'all more fresh, new content. One of the things I love about One Piece as a series, one of probably my top 5 reasons for loving the series so much, is because there's so much content to talk about, and it never gets dry. Like, Brago DH be pumping out content. Pharaoh Space pumps out content. Tekken 101 pumps out content. The list goes on and on. Joy Boy bumps out content. And when I'm saying content, I'm not just saying doing videos on the chapters. King of Lightning sometimes pumps out content. Sawyer sometimes pumps out content. You see what I'm saying? Like, actual in-depth discussions of the series. You can't really do that so much with a lot of series. Either there's not enough stuff to cover because it's just not long enough, or you're so limited in the narrative that you're kind of relying on to see what happens next. For example, we're currently in Vinland Saga, right? In the manga. There ain't much to talk about, bro. Like, every major conflict and plot point for the most part has been covered. We're just literally waiting on where Thorfinn, forget my man's name, that just thing with his whole father. If you caught up to the manga, you know what I'm talking about, so no spoilers. But pretty much every major character point has been covered. There is more to be in the future, but we're like in a waiting phase, all right? A lot of series go through that. The Baki series, there's a hell of a lot to talk about because it has so much history. Same thing with Hajime no Ippo. And so many plot points have been set up that you can talk about it. But at the same time, not really. We're just waiting for things to finally pop off. Like in the Hajime no Ippo manga, we're actually finally getting Sendo Takeshi fighting Alfredo Gonzalez, okay? That's just an example of what we deal with in a lot of series, right? With House of X and Powers of X in Marvel Comics, we're finally getting some real legitimate X-Men story writing since forever. Like, actually moving along the plot of the timeline of the X-Men. That's the stuff I'm talking about. But with One Piece, dude, you literally have plot points, subplots, and so many aspects of the world that aren't even really touched upon in Oda's main story. And then he just gets us little hints in here and there. Enough to satiate, but more to build upon later, as well as other things that he can't fully address. Like, for example, Tekken 101 brings up a geography series, Oda touched on that briefly, but there's still other elements like, damn, you could have a history of each of these islands, for example. See what I'm saying? I'm saying that the whole point is, this video is something I am confident nobody's ever talked about when it comes to the One Piece series. I am dead confident because I came up with this out of the blue. I was thinking initially between the differences between Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro, and how Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, how their differences actually make for them to be a phenomenal crew together. And that if they were all similar, you would get a Grundy World mutiny kind of situation. Okay? And it made me think about their codes of honor. Okay? Then I started thinking later, I'm like, wait a second. I started thinking as I do progressively. I'm like, who else, portrays this in the crew? And then I started thinking more outside the crew. And I'm like, damn. All right, so how many codes in the world of One Piece can I get? Now, there are probably others that I didn't dig too deep in, and you can let me know. And that's why I'm just opening up this discussion with this video. But right now, I got 6 codes that are more overarching. Like I said, there are probably other minor codes in the series of One Piece, as makes sense. Just like in our world, a lot of people live by a lot of different codes of activity, codes of honor, codes of conduct, right? Not everybody acts the same because not everybody's functioned to think the same. See, just because you have a specific view, just because your culture, subculture perceives things a certain way, does not mean that that necessarily is A, the correct way, or B, the only way to approach it. There are often alternative routes to the same destination. Not always, but often. This isn't, even in mathematics, sometimes you can have 2 or 3 different ways of doing and solving the same exact problem. Some ways are more arduous and out of the way of a voyage. Other ways are more streamlined. Some ways are better in certain situations than others. There are pros and cons to pretty much everything. So, with that being said, the first code, okay, of conduct, if you will, in the world of One Piece is the pirate code. Now, what do I mean by the pirate code? Because the world of One Piece is very liberal, as is with any of these things, about what a pirate is, right? A pirate in the world of One Piece isn't just someone who commits piracy on the open seas, someone who thieves on the open sea, someone who's out here doing this and that, right? A pirate isn't someone who just directly opposes the world government. We've seen it with the Revolutionary Army, the revolutionaries. It's not just someone who has a bounty, clearly. Okay, it's not someone who just flies a Jolly Roger. Because you have Hawkeye. As far as I know, he doesn't have a pirate flag, but he's considered a pirate. Kuma is the same way. So it gets, that's a whole other topic of discussion. But when you have something like this, you're going to have all kinds of people. But there is a specific pirate code. Okay, Luffy follows that. Shanks, all the Yonko follow the pirate code. Guys like Bellamy follow the pirates code. Sir Crocodile, even though he's more mobster gangster about it, follows the pirate code. Same thing with Capone, he's more mobster. Bartolomeo, a mobster, follows it. Gangster follows it. Joker, Doflamingo's a pimp and a gangster, but he follows that pirate code. Brook, who's a swordsman, follow the pirate code. Usopp follows the pirate code. There's plenty of other people that follow pirate code. And what would I say the pirate code is? The pirate code is pretty much I do what I want, how I want to. And I'll be damned if anybody's going to tell me otherwise. I'm going to live freely, how I see fit. Not necessarily, and that doesn't, and I understand that freedom doesn't indicate hedonism. That's not what I'm indicating here. But it's a general creed of being free. Okay? Not letting anyone dictate how I'm to interact with the world. Now, you'll be like, wait a second, but pirates follow captains. Yeah, and if you look at a lot of the crews, even the beast pirates are pretty loosey-goosey with how they follow. They're pirates. Straw Hat pirates. Each of the Straw Hats do what they do. When Luffy gives a direct command, then they follow. Other than that, they do what they do. They often separate and do their own things, right? And in fact, Luffy loves them for that. Big Mom pirates are the exact same way. More structured, but the kids just do what they do, fam. Lin Lin doesn't micromanage. Sometimes she'll give a command. She has allied crews with her. The Sun Pirates or the Fire Tank Pirates were a couple of examples, right? Shanks, you saw what he was about, all about that freedom. See what I'm saying? Joker, the same way. Yeah, these captains have the final say, but their crewmates can do practically what they want to. Live individually, unless the captain's like, nah, fam, this isn't, the best way for us to proceed. So that whole thing is, the whole thing of the pirate code is to live how you see fit. And Luffy epitomizes that with his vision of the Pirate King, the freest man on the sea. Okay? But, not to beleaguer a point, we're moving on. The second code is Bushido. You see it with the samurai. Of course, Zoro exemplifies it beautifully. That's the one who I thought of. I thought of, you think of Hawkeyes. Most swordsmen represent this Bushido, this way of the warrior, the way of the swordsman in this more specific situation. It's a way that they conduct themselves, okay? But not all swordsmen follow this. But the reason I bring up, you look at Zoro and you see how his whole thing about honor, it's a form of chivalry, but not really. It's falls along the lines of the old samurai code of Bushido. It really is. And without going too deeply in depth with that, if you want to know more about that, you can look up what I mean. Of course, like I said, One Piece is more liberal with it, but you see how Zoro interacts. You see the differences between him, Luffy, and Sanji. Of course, for example, the third code is chivalry, which you see with Sanji, not hitting a woman. The way in that Cavendish acts very chivalrous as well. I'm pretty sure there's a few different characters if I really wanted to dig deep, but Sanji and Cavendish are the ones that come to mind. This not flamboyant, that's not what I mean, but like this very knightly way of doing things. Okay, you could argue to say that probably Jinbei's interesting. I would love to hear what y'all say. Jinbei would probably be chivalrous. I could see if you say Bushido, but you could probably put Jinbei, the Sea Knight, as chivalrous. It's just the way of how they conduct themselves in this manly, protective role that they often have, and this high, elegant honor for this high pedestal way of finesse of uh, beauty in the way that they act. Where Bushido, I would say, is more straightforward, not cutthroat, but more ruthless. Really, excuse me for technical difficulty on that one. Then you would have chivalry. Chivalry is it's not more passive. It doesn't mean that you don't fight, but it's the air at which you bring. It's just a different vibe at what you do. If pirate code would be freedom, then Bushido, again, way of the warrior, again, a man's life dedicated to his blade, dedicated to his craft, dedicated to living his ideals out. Okay. When it comes to chivalry, chivalry is the matter of honor. It's the way of portraying yourself in a more elegant manner, protecting women, protecting um, in a civilized manner. Okay, that's what you get from Sanji. So a lot of people who rocks with the civilized manner rock with Sanji more. A lot of people who rock with the way of the warrior rock with Zoro more. A lot of the people who rock with freedom rock with Luffy more. None of these are necessarily wrong, but it's your approach to life. No wonder some people like certain people more than others. Allow me Luffy and Zoro. Luffy more than Zoro. Sanji's cool, but I don't rock with him that way because that's also not the lens that I perceive life. I perceive life first at freedom, then the way of the warrior. So it's no surprise that those are my top two favorite characters in that order. But we're moving on. Justice. Now we have so many different types of things. And the way One Piece plays it is that you've had Sengoku and Joker indicate that justice is in the perspective of the generation, right? Justice. But it's also in the perspective of the individual, although there's actual justice. Right? So it's a multi-layered thing. There's objective justice, then there's the personal justice, there's also the cultural justice. And it's a mirror to what we experience out here in the world. And you have varieties like flavors of ice cream, right? You have or popcorn or whatever the case may be, soda. You have Fleet Admiral Akainu Sakazuki's absolute justice, which I think we're starting to see a change in Sakazuki's character the more he's understanding the world. His absolute justice was a my way or the highway. If you're down with me, then you're down with justice. If you're not riding with me, then you're not riding with justice. It's somewhat of a self-absorbed extremist view. But like I said, I think we're getting more layers on Sakazuki post time skip as we are with pretty much every character, right? Then you had Aoki, former Admiral Aoki Kuzan's Lazy Justice, where he was about justice and fairness, but he was kind of slow moving with it. Okay, he was kind of lackadaisical, which is what you see a lot of times out here, where we're going to administer justice, but we'll get there. We get there. If we don't, we don't. And a lot of people take, that kind of activity. They do that kind of stuff. They make that kind of approach in life, and it's really actually a dangerous game if you really think about it. It can be good because you're not like a rabid dog. No pun intended on Akainu, but it doesn't equate to justice coming, and it allows for a lot of atrocities. If you had a guy like Kuzan step in and say nay to Ohara, then you wouldn't have incidents like Ohara. But instead, he just is like, oh, okay. Then you have a guy like Borsellino with his nonchalant justice, where it's a kind of fickle kind of thing. He follows the rules, but then he kind of goes harshly. At the same time, he's kind of whatever. So it's very whimsical. A lot of you could argue that most people are kind of like this. It's a very whimsical form of justice where it's not. It goes either too hard, too heavy-handed, or too soft in certain cases. So it's like it's so situational that it's not consistent. So there are flaws in each of these types of justices. Then I think you have real justice, blonde justice with Admiral Fujitora Isho, where he's about the facts. It's not about who you are. It's about what you do. It's about what rules have you broken and why. He's situational. He's a fair-minded, and it's again Oda with the symbolism of him being blind, being Justice's blind. Okay, and then you can go in the fifth one. We haven't seen what Real Kugel with Green Bull, what he brings to the table. So I'm very interested, and I think he's gonna have a wild form of justice. I think I've speculated that it's gonna be pretty much shoot first, and we might ask questions later. Kind of on some Lucky Rule, but even more so. Like even Sakazuki would be like, "Damn, bro, like you doing too much." Like this dude comes in and wreck shop. Like, bro, you don't just send in a guy like Green Bull. That's how I think he's gonna be. But we'll see what Oda actually does with him because we know how Oda likes to play with things and concepts. But then you have Dark Justice with Rob Lucci, where you go in, you take care, and you handle business. And it's people need to go, but it's underhanded, heavy-handed, sinister means, okay? And to where it can, it's justice, but it's borderline, if not evil, in the way that they're enacting justice. Because justice isn't just about the outcome, ladies and gentlemen. The ends don't necessarily justify the means. So that's what you get. And I love Rob Lucci. He's my sixth favorite character in the series. I love him mainly because of the concept of dark justice. And it causes you to sit back, pause, and think about life. It's not just the fact that he's an assassin, because it's not just the fact that he kills. And you can see that. He's not just a government dog. There's so many layers to Rob Lucci that I could get into and can make a discussion if you want me to do on Rob Lucci, because I don't think people really understand the subtleties of his character. His character, like even with the choice of his devil fruit, Oda be making devil fruit choices for a reason. Even the choice of his devil fruit is indicative of the multi-layered, multifaceted aspect of who Rob Lucci is. Doesn't say much, but his actions speak volumes, just like Luffy. Now, moving on to the fifth thing, the thief. Now, of course, embodied is Nami. Now, you normally like, all right, so how's that different from Pirate? Dude, you go back to early One Piece and tell me that Nami was not diametrically opposed to Luffy's thought process. Even her thing with Arlong, she doesn't think like a pirate. She bought that money. Buggy's interesting because Buggy, on one hand, is about that pirate life. But Buggy thinks like a thief. Okay? He really does. And Nami, like what you gotta love about it, if you watch Film Gold, you see this whole thing. Her and Homegirl, who I cannot remember her name, that helped out with the strides. That was like Oda just showing on. I was like, yes, we're here, we're in this about this whole thief thing, man. That whole movie was centered around being a thief. In fact, they were trying to steal, they were trying to do all of this. All in the way of a thief. If you don't watch Oceans 11, 12, 13, Oceans 8, The Thief. If you watch the show Leverage, first of all, love all of that, by the way. Leverage, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal series. If you never watched that, go back and watch that glorious series. It was beautiful. But the thing about a thief, and what is the way of thief? If we saw that Pirate was about freedom, Bushido, the way of the warrior, how to conduct yourself throughout life, how to conduct yourself on the battlefield and carry that on. If chivalry is about elegant, honorable way of living and protection and the presentation as well as the means, you battle because of your code, because it's the way of the man, in a very Western way. Bushido is very Eastern, Oriental, and chivalry is very Western, as we see with knights and such. I mentioned that justice, the variation, the flavors, the way of right-mindedness and the different variations in the way that people perceive that and how people, morality should be executed. Thieves? Ooh. What are thieves? Sly Cooper. It's Sly Cooper bad. Now, here's the thing about thieves, Alibaba and the 40 Thieves. Thieves commit immoral acts. It's not right to steal. But are thieves evil? I would argue no. At least not in most cases. No, they're not. They're not evil. For a thief, there's the challenge. There's a grace. There's a skill. There's a code to thieves because just because all stealing is not created equal. There are rules to shit. There are rules to everything. There are levels to this. There's always levels to this shit. If I would say the code of the thief, because look at Nami. Nami cares about people. She really does. It's just that thieves, it's the self and it's the gain over some code. See, the rest of these actually have higher code than the thief. The thief, the difference is the pirate, even though pirates can do some grimy stuff, they can. Freedom is a big goal, which even there are some actions even certain pirates will take. Now, Kaido is still the most vile in the series. But even Kaido, like Otis still makes it seem like there is redeeming qualities about Kaido. Even though he does the most vile, under him is the most vile stuff. And I still say there's no redeeming, like he gotta go. Kaido's still not the worst. Like, it's weird. It's a paradoxical situation. So, okay, what do I mean by this? Kaido is terrible. He's vile with it. He needs to die. But here's the thing. The celestial dragons, because of their power and the way that they approach life, are worse. Even though Kaido's technically worse than them. He's the most vile. His actions are the worst in the series. The celestial dragons of how they acting in general are worse. You can say, didn't you say Kaido's worse? Yeah, his actions are worse. But the approach to life is worse with the celestial dragons. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just your actions, it's your approach to life. And that's what we get with each of these. The thief approaches things pretty selfishly in order to gain. But the thief still doesn't cross. The thief isn't a killer unless the thief has to kill. You see? Because the pirate values more freedom, the pirate might be more liberal to kill. Same thing with all the rest of these. The rest of these, chivalry, the thief ain't trying to kill, bro. The thief is like, I'm just trying to get mine. Right? Whoa, with all that killing stuff. I'm about getting that moolah, baby, if that's what they're after, that treasure, that whatever else. I'm trying to get in, get out, be stealthy. I ain't trying to put myself at risk and whatnot. Not really trying to put others, but if you get in my way, then I'm gonna have to cut you loose because I'm still about getting mine. It's selfish, but it's not overly destructive unless you're talking about really, hurting somebody else with the funds. But the high class thieves are almost on some V for Vendetta status. Well, Robin Hood status, if you will, Robin Hood, right? Steal from the rich, give it more, or take from those who really don't need it. See, there can be honor amongst thieves. You see what I'm saying? Not justify, I'm just saying. It's a matter of perspective, as Obi-Wan Kenobi says in Star Wars, from a certain point of view. Okay? And finally, warrior. Now, you can say, wait. Didn't you say Bushido earlier and you said the way of the warrior? Yes. But, warrior. Now, Usopp is a pirate, but he really got a warrior's mentality. All right, or at least he's trying to develop that. Right now, he just empowered because that's all he know. But he admires the way of the warrior. The guys like Elbaf. You see Don Sai, Don Chinjiao. It's interesting because Jinbei displays some of this, even though he's really in the realm of chivalry. He still has that warrior creed to him, warrior's code to him. Kairos. He's the one I think of. Kairos. I don't know. People say Kairos, but Kairos, the warrior's code. Going into battle. Valor, manly stuff. I mentioned Vinland Saga earlier. Okay, that kind of thing. You think of Thorkel. If you know Vinland Saga, you think of Thorkel, bro. Thorkel. You think of Miyamoto Musashi. Musashi Miyamoto. All right. The way of the warrior is Bushido. That's a code. You can say it's its own form of chivalry. This, though, is how you act on the battlefield, the gung-ho nature. That doesn't make you, it's not, you be savage on the battlefield. It's a controlled savagery. But in regular life, you just live life. You just enjoy it. But when business time comes, you handle that in a manly facet. If you're willing to say that the warrior's code is the code of manliness of action. Luffy respects this. Okay? A lot of the great pirates respect the Warriors Code. You know, but the thing about the Warriors Code that's different from a piracy, you see, pirates will use underhanded tactics. That's why everybody, it's not a fair one-on-one. They're pirates. Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares about that, man? And I might need to I still need to actually do that video. I might do that soon. But maybe after this one we'll see. But as far as the Warriors Code, there's a code of conduct, a code of honor that is not to be broken in the way of exchange a duel. Look at Brogy, no, was it Norian Brogy? No, it's been a while. The two giants on Lil Garden, okay? I always mix up their name because there's so many names in One Piece. But y'all know how they were. And you saw how Usopp was affected by the way that they do. With unexpected water, like, comment, subscribe. I don't want this video to stretch on too long, but I hope y'all get what I'm trying to portray. And I would love to hear what y'all have to say about these codes. I would love to hear if y'all see any other ones in One Piece. And I'm not shocked if there are others. There could be dozens for all I know. But these were the major ones that I noted, and then the main ones that I wanted to talk about because, you know, I was like, there could be others. I'm like, screw it. This video is going to be long enough anyway. So, all right, y'all. Have a beautiful day, beautiful night. Peace. And let me know if there's any other content that you would like me to do.